Welcome to Determined to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Millarney, also known as the Unique Connector. So, this has been a dream of mine in the making for quite some time, and I'm so thankful to have this amazing woman right here join me for my launch. Nancy Kalsow, my friend, my coach, my mentor, my guiding light, and one that's really been in my corner through all of it. She's seen the highs, the lows, the moments in my life that have truly been challenging. I'm forever grateful that we randomly met. So, Nancy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, you are very welcome, Dawn, and this is just such a delight to see you in your element. I knew from the moment I met you that you were an inspiration and shining brightly out there, and that needed to be seen by others. So I'm so glad you stepped into the podcast world.
Yeah, this is exciting. And it's been a journey to finally hit record and get here to this moment. So it's kind of fun, but also a little scary. So I'm excited to be here and excited for you to kick it off with me.
Well, that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about in working together is things can be a little scary and stepping into that fear and doing it anyhow, right?
Yeah,
So here you are. Here you are.
here I am. Here I am. And that's where, too, I feel like it's been a journey of, too, the process of even creating this, of, figuring out what should the title be? What is the purpose? What am I trying to get across? And it's been a lot of deep work, thanks to you. And Determined to Succeed kind of came up randomly with this other woman that I've been working with for my podcast, and something really stuck. And it's so weird now that I've picked that and I've said it kind of out loud to a couple people, it keeps popping up in conversations, even with people that just met me. And they're like, wow, you're really determined to succeed. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. So.
Yeah, meant to be, meant to be. When you were in that moment when it popped up, tell me what was going on for you. Like how did it make you feel?
Yeah. Well, at first I was kind of like, is this right? But then all of a sudden I kind of had that moment where it kind of hits you in the gut where you're like, well, isn't this kind of what you're doing? You're determined to succeed. And I think for so long, like even being in corporate is, succeeding is moving up the ladder or getting a promotion or, getting some recognition or celebrating some like certificate or something. And so I think for me, it's always been kind of a challenge of what is succeeding or what is it, when you get to success? Like, what does that look like? I
Mm,
don't know for you too, but it's just like, I think it's been a journey that you've made me sit and actually think about this stuff of
mhm.
maybe success isn't always some moment or like something that's like distinctive. Like, I think of it more of as how do you feel?
Mm.
And so I think for me, it's been going back to my values that you've been helping me also ingrain and realize what are my true values. But for success for me, I think is having that peace and that joy and that happiness. And that is something that I have just had to switch my brain and my thought to because I always thought it was like, well, I got to get this promotion or I got to make this much money in order to be successful.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. I love that because and that's one of the really cool things about your podcast is um what does success mean? Well, it's different to everybody.
Yeah.
And so a big part about our, to be determined, to get disciplined, to get where we're, give what we're wanting to give to this world, right? Is kind of how I perceive it. You have to identify what it is.
Mhm.
And I remember too, at one point you told me, you had a few people say, like, what? Like, why did you pick that?
Yeah.
Right? So how did that make you feel after you had already selected it? What was going on there?
Yeah. Well, actually, I had a different name even before this name. And it was called Profitable Connections because I've always been one that loves to connect with people. And with podcasts, you're trying to, get viewers and everything. But deep down in my heart, I don't remember what it was, but a certain meeting we had once, and it was something that hit me in the gut. And I go, ooh, that is not the title of my podcast. Because the reason I have connections isn't to make more profits. It's about building relationships and seeing what opportunities there are and being a resource and helping people and seeing what opportunities that maybe they're not even seeing, or friendships even. And so I got rid of that title, even though I had like it all ready to go. And then I got in my head for a bit, but then going around and kind of restarting and thinking all over again. And the woman that I've been working with, Cheryl, she's been kind of like sending me different things, and she's been learning more about me. And then Determined to Succeed kind of came up. And well, even to the Profitable Connections was the pivotal moment with you. But also, I told my husband, he was like, why would you ever pick that name? That's not you. And I was like, you're right. That's not me. And so, yeah, Determined to Succeed, I felt too, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. But now that I've put it out there, yeah, I think it's just part of what's in my own soul. And something I see about other people is everybody that's really high achieving and driven, they're always determined to succeed. And maybe they've seen some success, but maybe it's not the defined success that they want to see. So
Mhm.
kind of a long story, but that's kind of where it kind of came from, where the first name, ooh, in the end was not me. And I wanted to run away from it after I realized.
Yeah. Well, and so that I love the process that you went through there. And really, the bottom line is, right, it's all words.
Yeah.
However, words and what we say to ourselves is what we become. What we believe is how we show up, right?
Yep.
And so the more we repeat words that don't sit well with us, the more we're becoming something that is not necessarily who we want to become. So, every other people might define determined differently than you do, or success different than you do. But when you're in this space of determined to succeed, you're going to be demonstrating what those words mean to you over and over again through these discussions. So that's, I think, the key is that this is your podcast, and so much fun to see you stepping into, yeah, I am determined to succeed. You're saying that about yourself now, and I'm determined to succeed, and part of success for me is connections.
Mm-hmm. It
So
is. I think that's been the journey of even too jumping off on my own of just what is it that really Dawn wants? Because I think that's the thing that we just always kind of do what everybody else thinks we're supposed to do, or what society thinks you're supposed to do. So I like how you're explaining that too, because it's a journey we're all on. And I think this is my journey that I'm learning and discovering new things about myself and others.
yeah, that's the true meaning of it's a journey, not a destination, right? There's that successories quote or whatever, and it's like it's all about the journey and not the destination. And I think so much of that is true, that the destination is almost a result of the
Mm.
journey. And or maybe is there ever a destination, right? The living life fully, um is how we can be every day, um to really, and then that's a journey instead of oh, I've got to do one particular thing. um Although a lot of people do have really cool, um goals and things that they're wanting to choose to do. So, like, I love that you told me the first time it was almost 2 years ago, the first time I heard you say, "I wanna do a podcast," and it was before the one that you, ended up doing for, the company that you worked with at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it I see you just going back there for a minute, so I'm really curious what's happening for you right now.
Well, I think it's so weird that I was so shy growing up, and my sister would order my food for me, and I didn't really want to talk much, and not that I always want to be talking, but I think something that I've realized is, some people love writing and they feel like they get their words out or their feelings. And for some reason, for me, it's been my voice. And I just kind of giggle of like, wow, where did I come from, from before? And I think those pivotal moments that I've even had as I reflect in the past is, I had my own health hiccup and I finally got on a podcast and I told my story. And it was kind of that moment that I needed to heal, to grieve, to get through it. And I didn't really realize that until after I did it. And the podcast recording didn't happen. Like we had some technical issues, so we had to do it again. And it was almost like doing it two times to hear my own voice was what I needed to hear. And I think for more people too, like that's kind of why I almost wanted to host these podcasts because I love learning about people, but I love shining on other people and making them feel special because we all are. And the spotlight should be on them and to make them be recognized for all the greatness or the challenges that they've been through or the times that they've fallen on their face, but they've gotten back up and they've gotten to keep pushing ahead. So that's kind of where I'm reflecting as to like, I didn't really realize that's what I needed for myself, but also something that I needed to help other people. I just love shining on other people and making them feel special and unique.
Yeah, and I think people really feel that, that's why I love, your podcast kind of logo. It says determined to succeed, and you're kind of there by the words and then those rays shining out from you. And that's how people really see you and they feel connected when they're with you. And yeah, it would I think in another podcast, we're gonna actually walk down memory lane with you, and some things are really showing up for me as you said that. But I'm really curious about what does succeed or succeeding or success mean to you? And, why did this podcast name stick?
Yeah. Even kind of to go off of which not many people have seen that, but the even the podcast cover, I feel like all this kind of went into it where I'm really kind of thought about it that I didn't really realize I was kind of that person that really wanted to think about the details, maybe because it was mine for once and what I got to pick. But um you had me do a what do you want to say, like project or a task or one day and kind of homework of drawing my future. What do I want to see in my future? And it was, you said, draw or write words or things that how you're feeling right now. And so I had all these things of us traveling as a family, me spending time with my family and seeing the world and living life in happiness and joy. I
Mm.
don't know exactly what always we were doing, but we were like doing adventurous things. We love doing adventurous things with my family, but I wanted to do that. And then you have me draw my current state. And my current state right now is kind of in this weird path right now where I am learning a lot about myself, learning about others, business, all these things, and trying to navigate even to like what really lights Dawn up and what is really something I love to do because I've never really had that chance. And so it was kind of a different, I guess, picture of me kind of in this like, I don't want to say confusion state, but kind of in this state of figuring things out, but knowing it will all work out. And
Mm.
then you have me draw my middle. Like, how are you going to get to it? And you're like, what's the bridge in between these two? What do you visualize? How can you get these two together? And I just started drawing and whatnot. And it just like came to me and it was really weird. And I have it in my notes over here, but it's, I had mountains with peaks and valleys, a bridge with a different road and different paths. And then the bridge had these arches with water flowing through them. And then I had a sun. And so you said, okay, so what does all this mean? And ever since then, I have this like big picture in my head, and why too, what I'm doing is everybody is on this journey where the path is unknown. Am I going here? Am I going there? But the water is always flowing, where there's always something that's going to help push you ahead, or, you know, the path may look a little scary, but you always can come back and reverse and go this way. Or you're going to go high up in the mountains and go low in the valleys sometimes. But deep down, no matter what, there's always this sun shining on you and these rays. And for some reason, I feel myself as being the rays and the sun on other people, where I'm too shining light on myself of figuring out what path, or the moments of highs and the moments of lows. But deep down, there's always those rays of sunshine that's going to get you going and still get you the vitamins, I guess you could say, that you need to keep pushing ahead. And so that's where kind of, even when we were doing the podcast drawing with the designer person, I said, and this was even before I think I even did this project with you, but I said, for some reason, when all these photos I look at myself this year, I keep seeing sun rays and light and shining on me or shining on my family. And it's been kind of weird when I've done these things. And now that I've looked at stuff, I'm like, whoa, it keeps coming up. And so that's where the designer kind of did that with the rays shining off of me. And that wasn't really what I thought would be like, the rays shining off of me. But then I was like, oh, then I did this project with you, and it all keeps happening and aligning.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that is part of the journey right there, is going with where your heart takes you and your instinct takes you, right? Because, um, the that process really is revealing, what's important to you.
Mm,
And what you are becoming, in addition to already who you are. And when you said, the vitamins, so to speak, I don't know why, but I went, "Ooh, yeah," like, it's like a taking a supplement for the day. I get some dawn in my life today, you know? So I definitely feel that, and it's always a joy to connect with you. So what I'm hearing, success for you is, kind of this happiness and living life and helping other people do the same. Um, and so where does connections come into that? Tell me, you started with something about the connections and profitable connections.
mhm.
And yeah, so tell me about that.
Yeah, I would say I discovered this. I don't know why I had this aha moment during COVID time of how, you know, I think doing all the different discs and things, and, you know, I'm kind of a extrovert, a lot of people think, but deep down, I think what I've realized is I'm kind of an introvert. I love kind of to my own space and being with my family and kind of quiet and not going into a room and being the spotlight. Like that flusters me. And I think too, during COVID, it made me realize that more about myself, and how I was always kind of going into my extrovert mask, I guess you could say, of this is what I need to do because this is my job and I need to connect with people and be at events and whatnot. And so during COVID, I kind of realized, oh my gosh, I can show up as me, I can connect with people, and that's what people need right now. And
Mhm.
so I was just reaching out to people and having these virtual chats with them. And I would have, whew, some days I think I had like 10 meetings because I just wanted to connect with people and I wanted to check in on them. And I realized during that, when I had my own health hiccup, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm exhausting myself. I'm burning out. And I just wanted to light people up and spread some sunshine on them. But then I realized this name of unique connector. I always try and find the uniqueness in all of us and myself, that as another friend would always say, kind of you feel like sometimes you're the alien in this world where you kind of think differently than everybody. You're like,
Mm,
gosh, I feel like I stand out or nobody thinks like me. And that's where, for me, one time I even remember with you that I kept saying the word silly. And you're like, why do you keep saying the word silly? And I realized it was another word I was using for unique. And I think that's where just we all are unique. We all need connection in different ways. It fills up our cups in different ways. But deep down, I just love connection to learn about them, to spread some positivity, happiness to them, see how I can help, what resource I can be for them, and connect them to somebody else because it's just a spider web of connections because you never know who can get you to where you need to be.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Well, and even just earlier today, you were telling me a story of how you met somebody, and it sort of just showed up, and it's like, ooh, how meeting the people who can get you where you're wanting to go, what's important to you. And it's how you got started in this podcast too, just meeting all the right people, being in the right places. And so seeing those connections, I think that's another thing that you're really good at, Dawn, is the ability to, it's not only like you want to connect people, but you see what one person could use support in and another person has. And you go, ooh, there they are, and I can bring them together. So it's one thing to connect with people, but you're the unique connector because you see the reasons to connect people and
Mhm.
who they are and how they can support one another. Um, it reminded me too of just, the whole idea of, um, as human beings, why, connection is so important to us. And, one of the top causes for death, and especially in elderly people, is loneliness.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes forget that as humans, we do need people. We're not meant to do this alone.
Mhm.
And so, it doesn't have to be lots of people, but find your support system, you know. And for you, you're one of the people who can help people do that really easily.
Mm.
So, yeah. So
Well,
thanks.
thanks.
You've given me connections that have helped me build my business, as well as just make some really great friendships and hear tips from people, advice from people, Um, and sometimes people are afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
And what Dawn does is says, "Hey, I know somebody who can help you with that. Are
Mhm.
you interested?" Right?
Yeah.
So success, connections, your success, getting joy out of making those connections. I'm curious about the word determined.
Mm. It's almost kind of my first thought that just popped up in my head is just like that gumption to keep going, and I think, even for me during this time of taking the leap and leaving the stability and having a full-time job and a full-time paycheck, that was nerve-wracking for me to kind of leave that behind. Just, it's been a long journey for me to finally accept that and to be okay. But I know no matter what, I'm going to succeed, and I think for me, even too, a lot of this stuff, even like connections, it goes down to my values. I value other people, I value connections, I want to help other people succeed. I don't get paid for all those connections. I don't get paid for making referrals or, suggestions for people. And I think deep down, it's like it will circle back to you. Be a good human, help other people, and, just keep pushing ahead. And no matter what, it will all work out. And that's
Yeah.
kind of where the determined for me is just like, I still, I got this umph in my step and I'm going to do this. I'm not sure exactly what the path is going to look like or what's going to be next, but I'm excited for exploring and seeing how this will evolve. And I know one day, if I didn't do this, I would regret it. I would
Mm,
regret myself for not taking the leap to not have enough um, courage or know that I'm stronger and smarter than I believe. I think that's the thing, is that I had to realize I need to be my biggest cheerleader, which has been a journey. Trust me, I
Mhm.
have some low days, but it's just like I realized all that I think sunshine I push on other people, sometimes you need to do for yourself.
Mm.
And that's been kind of the learning part for me of pushing me forward, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, I love the word gumption. Like, it just makes me, feel like, ooh, there's power in that word, and kind of reminds me of, like, yeah, gumption, grit, um, perseverance,
Yeah.
just those, determination is like a discipline to keep going in a direction. And your whole point about not even knowing, you don't even have to know what the direction is, you're still willing to do it, which to me is says a lot about determination, to have the faith that something is coming, and it might not be exactly what you even dreamed it to be, but and what I hear is you telling yourself that, like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take the step, like, I'm determined to take the steps to do this, and that builds your belief on your ability to do it. So how fun is that?
Yeah. It's been a
Yeah.
journey, but I appreciate too you being in my corner and helping me think things out, to have the moments too where you call me out because you've gotten to know me so well, that I appreciate that. And I think that's been the thing for me that I needed to make me realize myself, and to almost have that confidence boost that I needed to keep going ahead. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm thinking too about the whole, I use this formula called the 4 Ps. And it starts with passion, and it's passion plus patience plus perseverance equals your purpose. And I started using that because so many times people have a hard time. They go, "Well, I don't know what my purpose is.
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing." And we're trying to figure out what our purpose is. And um, the my idea is that the more you follow your passion, it will take you on this journey. And yes, sometimes you have to be really patient, and not every day is a good day, like you said,
Yep.
not every day is a great day for me either. Some days I don't, I'm not sure where I'm headed or what I'm going to be working on or how I even feel about the work I've been doing, right? Or my life in general. And then, but I take a step, and then that step opens the door to this journey. And the more we take steps with what we're passionate about, and when I say passion, I mean what's important to you.
Mm.
And if you're taking steps on things that are important to you, and you're learning about them and speaking up about them, and understanding that it doesn't always come overnight, right? Like, it's a process.
Yeah.
Um, that's the patience part, but the perseverance is you keep the gumption. I've got the gumption to keep taking the next step. I'm sticking with this. I'm not giving up. I might do it differently. There might be a new step that emerges on the path that I'll take next. But and the more we follow our heart, our gut, our instincts about what's important to us, and we start showing up and learning more about them and how we can get involved, the more passionate we become, and then or the and we're stepping into our purpose. And so the more we're living in our purpose, the more passionate we become about that intention for our purpose. So to me, it's like a cycle. If you're not sure what your purpose is, and most people aren't, well, at least step into something and just explore it and see. And then from that exploration, it might become something else. And pretty soon, wherever it leads you to, you can feel your excitement. Passion to me is about excitement. What gets you going, right? And so, and when I first met you, you got excited about connecting with people. And
Mhm.
you loved doing the virtual networking stuff during COVID. and figuring it all out. How am I going to make connections? So you're passionate about connections.
Yeah.
And if they feel good to you, and other people feel good when you help them get in those situations. So you're finding your purpose by leaning into that. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a learning journey. And I think even too, like lately when people have asked me about my journey, and, sometimes too, when you hear yourself telling other people about your journey, you sometimes realize, like, holy cow, I guess I have done some things, not that I'm trying to like, woo, look at me, but it's like, okay, sometimes we don't always look in the rear view mirror to really see how far we've come. And I think that's always been something for me is like, okay, got that thing accomplished. Let's get on to the next. And I've never taken the moment sometimes to be in that glory and to realize like, holy cow, I just completed that task or that, how much stress I had from that. And now I can release it and go on. And um, I think that's just where I hope to help inspire other people to be proud of all their achievements. And I love how you said about the passion and the purpose and everything, because I feel like no matter what, we're on this journey where we're always going to keep learning. And that's me, where I'm going to keep learning and keep growing, and we'll see where it goes. And that's kind of with the podcast too. I feel like it's going to evolve, and I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Determined to succeed. Woohoo.
Woo. Well, this is
Yeah.
the first episode, and I'm excited. And thank you to all that listened. Nancy's going to join me again, and we're going to do a little walk down memory lane. And I'm really excited to get Nancy's perspective and to hear even from her view of how my journey's been. So I'm really excited. So be sure to listen to this next episode and the future ones. But thank you so much, Nancy, for joining me for this
You
launch.
are. Yeah, you are very welcome. I am thrilled to be in your corner, Dawn.
Well, thank you. All right. See you next week, everyone.